The Titan submersible of the OceanGate expedition, which disappeared in the abyss of deep water off of Newfoundland, Canada, June 18, 2023, suffered a catastrophic implosion that shocked the world. 5 passengers were aboard the Titan when it disappeared in the North Atlantic Ocean on June 18th, on its way to the famed Titanic shipwreck, lying at almost 13,000 feet in the dark, unforgiving calm of the abyss. A days-long rescue mission ensued in an attempt to save them, before evidence of the wrecked Titan on the ocean floor concluded that 5 lives had been lost. The passengers who embarked on the expedition were billionaire British explorer Hamish Harding, French diver Paul-Henri Nargeolet, Pakistani businessman Shahzada Dawood, his 19-year-old son Suleiman, and OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush, owner and extreme diving enthusiast. This wasn't the first time the submersible Titan had been on a trip to explore the infamous Titanic. Stockton Rush, an engineer and entrepreneur with an obsession for descending into the abyss, was part of that circle of people who wanted something extreme from life, something unique. There were those who climbed K2, those who let themselves be launched into space, and those who precisely descend where nobody or almost nobody would attempt to do so. The Titan submersible, which cost about $7 million, was not simply a tube immersed in water. Behind that hull, dozens of people worked there. Engineers, divers, cooks. Then there was a large mothership that dragged the Titan and all the crew to the site of the Titanic, all with exorbitant fuel costs and various maintenance expenses. And Stockton Rush was one of the partners financing this expensive project, his baby. But precisely, the project was or remained something amateurish, with considerable savings in construction. But we will see this later. The Titan. According to the company, OceanGate's Titan could reach a depth of 4,000 meters and accommodate up to 5 people with an air autonomy of 96 hours. The submersible also had a very special service that guests appreciated. We have a toilet. We're the only deep-diving submarine that actually has a bathroom, which is a big concern for many people when they're spending 10 hours in a submarine with 4 people they barely know, claimed the CEO, Stockton Rush. The Titan reached a speed of 3 knots thanks to 4 electric thrusters. The small Titan submersible was equipped with cutting-edge lighting and internal and external sonar, plus navigation systems, as well as 4K video and photographic equipment. Inside included equipment for monitoring, inspection, and data collection. Through the bow porthole, passengers could see everything around the submersible up close. One of the most innovative components on board the Titan submersible was the safety system based on RTM, Real-Time Hull Health Monitoring Technology. It is a real-time vessel health monitoring system. Titan was one of the few manned submarines to use this technology. A set of sensors constantly evaluated pressure changes and environmental factors, consequently the state of the vehicle, the integrity, and the structure. This onboard technology makes it possible to estimate the risk of a dive at any time, so that the driver of the vehicle can eventually decide to return immediately to the surface. In fact, the hull was equipped with various lift systems. The conventional method was, once the exploration was done, to abandon the ballast and consequently ascend, according to the laws of physics, like an air bubble. But if the release didn't work, you could have used an emergency gas balloon. If instead, the crew for any reason was unable to maneuver anything, the Titan could ascend by carrying out one of these 2 systems at the end of 24 hours of immersion. Expeditions. OceanGate had used the Titan to visit the Titanic for years, but Stockton said he would return every season. The enduring fascination of the Titanic helped make all kinds of science possible in the long run. The love of the Titanic, the interest in the Titanic, is why we go there, Rush said. But we don't just explore the Titanic as research. These first trips were meant to be a trailblazer for an extreme and expensive touristic future around the Titanic. Travel to the Titanic cost about $250,000 at the time, and about $110,000 in 2021. But the submersible had minor upgrades. Some customers in that year, seeing the type of submarine, immediately abandoned the idea of going inside. OceanGate said the Titan has completed more than 50 test dives, including to depths similar to the Titanic's, both in waters around the Bahamas and in a pressure chamber. However, previous travels of the Titan had also encountered problems, which raised safety concerns. Reporter David Pogue was aboard in 2022 when communication with the lead ship was lost for 2.5 hours. Not to mention the German adventurer Arthur Lobel, whose interviews have gone around the world. He was one of the first customers in 2021. On one occasion, there were battery problems. In another, the ballast came off mid-slope, and they had to ascend again. In any case, he was one of the lucky few to make 2 complete circles around the Titanic. Crew members communicated with the mothership via SMS, and there was no GPS system. Titan was driven by a ruggedized Logitech game controller and touchscreen. The wireless gamepad cost around $40 on Amazon. She's Bluetooth, so I can give it to anyone. We keep a couple of spares on board just in case, Rush said in interviews. Safety. Already in 2018, the leaders of the submarine industry had expressed considerable doubt about the safety of the Titan. The New York Times wrote in an open letter, "We fear that OceanGate's experimental approach could lead to negative results, from mild to catastrophic." There had also been considerable concern within the company itself. David Lockridge, director of naval operations at OceanGate until 2018, had asked for more tests, according to court documents cited by the news portal News Republic. Lockridge was fired by OceanGate in 2018 for criticizing the Titan's security. The engineer and the company then sued each other. According to Lockridge, the CEO of OceanGate also refused to have the Titan certified for diving up to 12,000 feet deep. The reason emerges from the court documents. The viewing window in the forward part of the submersible was only built for a certified pressure of 1,300 meters and did not meet the standards for human use. This despite the fact that OceanGate wanted to transport passengers almost 4,000 meters deep. The wreck of the Titanic lies at 3,800 meters. Paying passengers were not notified by OceanGate of the security issues, Lockridge said. Furthermore, he would not have known that dangerous and flammable materials were being used inside the submersible. Even without knowing about the technical shortcomings, some passengers would have refused to dive with the Titan. During the mission of the German Arthur Lobel, there were 3 Americans who, seeing the submarine, said, "We're not going up there." The Titanic. Going down to the Titanic is a feat, but so is reaching it on the surface. It is in a remote place, about 300 miles away from Canada, and even 800 miles from Boston, the first major city. The ship sank in the early hours of April 15, 1912, on a maiden voyage after colliding with an iceberg. The wreck of the Titanic lies at a depth of approximately 3,800 meters or 12,400 feet, with the ship divided into 2 sections about 600 meters apart. However, there are deeper areas in the ocean, and 3,800 meters is a figure already at the limits of comprehension. To get an idea, take the mighty Titanic, which was about 260 meters or 850 feet long, and stand it upright 15 times. If it were possible to see the Titanic from the surface of the sea while standing above it, the whole wreck would appear to be the size of a finger. The wreck was not discovered until September 1, 1985, during a joint mission between the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute of the United States and the French National Institute of Oceanography. Foreman Dr. Robert Ballot and Jean-Louis Michel studied the history of the Titanic disaster and had expert knowledge of the ship and previous efforts to find it. They narrowed the search down to 100 square miles. They used imaging tools and the newly developed Argo sonar and video camera system to scour the seabed for debris dropped from the wreck in the current. Just after 1 a.m. on September 1, 1985, they discovered one of the Titanic's boilers, confirming that the wreckage had been found. It is estimated that the wreck could last another 20-30 years at most. Then it would be completely corroded by submarine bacteria. The descent. St. John's, the capital of the Canadian province Newfoundland, was the embarkation point for OceanGate's customers and crew. After a journey south of more than 300 miles on the mothership, they arrived atop the Titanic. At this point, the best time to depart was yet to be determined. That is, sea and currents had to be at a minimum. The wait could last up to a week. As soon as the moment was right, the crew and clients got ready for the descent. Typically, a maximum of 5 people, usually 2 crew and 3 guests. The Titan rested on a platform. People were brought to the platform via a rubber dinghy. They entered the small submersible barefoot, and they brought along a small amount of food. Then the carbon fiber cylinder was sealed from the outside with 17 bolts. It was forbidden to suffer from claustrophobia. In fact, once the hatch was sealed, it was impossible to get out of the Titan from the inside. Only the staff on the ship could reopen the hatch, which also served as the only porthole. Once the hatch was sealed, the platform plunged down to 9 meters, where divers finally released the Titan. Now it was free to move independently. Storing water, the Titan began the slow, horizontal descent into the abyss. The descent, almost 4 kilometers long, took up to 2 hours. The lights were turned off to save energy. Often, a fluorescent green light, similar to those of fishing floats, was turned on, and communication with the ship was now only via SMS, with no possibility of communicating directly by voice. During the descent, imaginary noises heard due to the weight of the external pressure that increases from above, meter by meter, like this for 2 hours. Daylight penetrates the sea 50 to 150 meters. It depends on the type of water. Beyond that point, you would have seen nothing but deep darkness. Beyond 1,000 meters, the water is as black as oil. Looking out the acrylic porthole as they neared the bottom, the crew would turn on the exterior lights and search for the Titanic. According to some testimonies, while the Titan was lowered right above the Titanic, the currents could move it 1 or 2 kilometers away from the wreck. The search could last from a few minutes up to hours. It depended on several factors, and once located, for the customers who had done so much to be there, it must have been the thrill of a lifetime. The temperature at that depth is about 4 degrees. Even inside the Titan, it must have been very cold. The return to the surface would have taken as long as the descent, about 2 hours. The Titan was able to ascend in several ways. The traditional method was to drop some ballast and go up like an air bubble. Upon reaching the surface, she would land on a steel submerged platform, where divers would hook her up, and then the mothership would pull the platform up using a winch. But unfortunately, the last trip did not go like this. The tragedy. A decorated former Navy doctor has revealed what happened during the Titan's tragic final moments before the submersible suffered a catastrophic implosion. Dr. Dale Molay, a former director of the U.S. Navy, told the Daily Mail that the deaths would have been quick and painless, almost instantaneous, due to the extraordinary forces exerted by the deep ocean, Molay said. It would have been so sudden that they didn't even know that it was a problem, or what had happened to it. Organic matter is not designed to withstand extreme forces. With a nearly instantaneous change in pressure from 1 to hundreds of atmospheres, death is likely to occur before the human central nervous system can even register that anything has gone wrong. The hull will immediately heat the air in the submarine to a temperature similar to that of the sun, while a wall of metal and seawater crashes from one end of the submarine against the other, all in the blink of an eye. Causes. The Titan submersible was also built with materials taken on a discount from Boeing, the company that builds aircraft and which supplied OceanGate with recycled materials, that had exceeded their shelf life for use in airplanes. This was revealed by Arnie Weissman, editor-in-chief of Travel Weekly. The journalist had been invited by the CEO of OceanGate, Stockton Rush, to voyage on the Titan, and should have embarked in June on the journey to the wreck of the Titanic. However, this news was denied by Boeing. For its Titan, Stockton Rush had focused on carbon fiber because it was lighter. For the OceanGate CEO, it was an innovation in a field that had long relied on more expensive titanium, and said that the company had worked with Boeing to make sure the pressure vessel carbon fiber tube that keeps the passengers alive was safe, reports the Washington Post. But the innovation was also in the staff. Rush mainly surrounded himself with very young engineers and designers because, according to him, they were more innovative. In reality, some hypothesized that this would have led to further savings on expenses, as a young and inexperienced engineer cost less than one with decades of experience. But experience is precisely what must not be lacking in cases like this. The Titan's carbon fiber and shape had caused concern among marine regulators and mariners. For Arnie Weissman, Stockton Rush was presumptuous in thinking he could tackle a dive of that type with these materials safely. Therefore, the hull of the Titan was nothing more than a carbon fiber tube attached to two external parts of titanium, the stern and the bow. The assembly video is available on YouTube and has made many aeronautical engineers turn up their noses. Two completely different materials, one of which, carbon fiber, has never been tested in the depths and is frowned upon for this use. The cylinder parts of the Titan were joined by a non-epoxy glue in a controlled aseptic environment. But what about the front porthole? It was rated to a depth of 4,260 feet, and for Stockton Rush, it seems this rating was more than sufficient. Anyone who objected was fired, and we do not yet know if the cause of the failure was precipitated by the porthole or something else. Actions. The wreck of the Titan was partially recovered thanks to submarine ROV remotely operated vehicle robots and is still under investigation. An expert in the sector, Rob McCallum, requested that missions with this submersible be suspended until it was evaluated by an independent commission in order to not put customers' lives at risk. I'm tired of industry insiders trying to use the safety argument to stop innovation, read rebuttal emails from Stockton Rush, which have been viewed by the BBC. McCallum stopped raising the alarm about the safety of the Titan when OceanGate's lawyers threatened legal action. Conclusions. Overconfidence, exactly like that demonstrated at the time of the Titanic disaster. This is the verdict of director James Cameron, himself an expert in deep-sea exploration, on the drama of the submersible Titan. Cameron accused OceanGate's Stockton Rush, who was at the helm of the Titan, of cutting corners and avoiding having the submarine certified because he knew it wouldn't get through. For Cameron, however, it was overconfidence that sealed the fate of the Titan. As with the Titanic in 1912, when the captain was repeatedly warned of the presence of ice in front of his ship, yet he charged full speed into a field of icebergs on a moonless night, and many people died as a result. What did this tragedy teach us, which could have been safely avoided? That paradoxically, perhaps it was just inevitable, because situations like that of the Titan have been and always will be. As long as men exist, they will test and explore never-reached limits.